Listen, everybody. There comes a moment in your life when you realize that what you've been holding on to is the very thing holding you back. Not because it was always bad, not because it didn't serve you at one point, but because where you are going cannot carry what you refuse to release. And the truth is, letting go is one of the hardest spiritual assignments you will ever face. Because sometimes it's not just things you have to let go of. It's people. It's expectations. It's the version of yourself you fought so hard to become. It's the comfort zone that feels safe, but is slowly suffocating your purpose. You've been praying for elevation, asking for doors to open, crying out for something greater, but heaven is waiting on your hands to open first. Because what God has for you cannot fit in a life that's already full of what no longer belongs there. You keep asking, why hasn't it happened yet? But have you asked yourself, what am I still holding on to? Some of you are holding on to past pain, like it's proof of your survival. You wear it like armor. You've convinced yourself that if you let it go, you'll forget what you went through, or worse, you'll lose your strength. But hear this clearly, your strength was never in the pain. Your strength was in the fact that you survived it, and you don't need to carry the wound to prove that you healed. Some of you are holding on to people who were only meant to be chapters, not the entire story, and you keep trying to rewrite something that God has already finished. You're exhausting yourself trying to fix, force, and figure out relationships that are no longer aligned with where you're going. And deep down, you feel it. You feel the shift. You feel the distance. You feel the distance. You feel that tug in your spirit telling you, this is not it anymore. But letting go feels like failure. Letting go feels like losing. Letting go feels like admitting that what you hoped for, what you prayed for, what you invested in, isn't going to turn out the way you imagined. And that kind of surrender, it's painful. But sometimes God will allow your hands to empty, so your life can finally be filled. Because you cannot receive new blessings while gripping old burdens. You cannot step into a new season while trying to drag the last one with you. And you cannot become who you're called to be while clinging to who you're called to be, while clinging to who you used to be. There is a version of you that is waiting on the other side of your obedience. A version of you that is lighter, freer, clearer. But you won't meet that version until you release what's weighing you down. Some of you are holding on to fear. Fear of failure, fear of starting over, fear of being seen, fear of being rejected. And it's disguised as wisdom. It sounds like logic. It feels like protection. But it's actually limitation. Because fear will always give you reasons to stay where you are, while faith will always call you to step into what you cannot yet see. And if you're honest, you already know that where you are is no longer enough. You've outgrown it. The conversations don't fulfill you anymore. The routines don't excite you anymore. The environment doesn't inspire you anymore. That's not confusion. That's confirmation. That's God showing you that you're evolving. But growth requires release. You don't grow by adding more weight. You grow by shedding what restricts you, and sometimes what you need to let go of isn't external, it's internal. It's the belief that you're not worthy, it's the mindset that you're too late, it's the lie that you missed your moment. Let me tell you something. You are not behind. You are being prepared. Every delay, every detour, every disappointment, it's shaping you for something you cannot afford to mishandle. But you won't be able to carry it if your hands are still full of doubt. Some of you are holding on to control. You want to know how it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, who's going to be involved, what it's going to look like. And because you don't have all the answers, you hesitate, you pause, you overthink, you stay stuck. But faith has never required full understanding. Faith requires trust. Trust that even when you can't see the path, it's still being made. Trust that even when it doesn't make sense, it's still working together. Trust that even when it feels uncertain, it's still intentional. And sometimes the biggest act of faith is letting go of the need to control everything. Because control says, I'll move when I understand. But faith says, I'll move because I trust. There is something waiting for you that is bigger than what you're holding on to, but it requires space. It requires surrender. It requires you to say, I may not understand it, but I trust you enough to release it. And that release, it's not weakness. It's obedience. It's courage. It's alignment. Because when you let go of what no longer serves your purpose, you create room for what's meant for your destiny. And yes, it will feel uncomfortable at first because you're stepping into unfamiliar territory. You're walking away from what you know into what you don't. But discomfort is often the birthplace of transformation. And just because it's uncomfortable doesn't mean it's wrong. It means you're growing. It means you're stretching. It means you're stepping into something greater. Some of you are waiting for confirmation before you let go. You're asking for signs, for clarity, for reassurance. But the truth is, you already know. You've known for a while. You've just been hoping it would change, hoping it would get better, hoping it would make sense, hoping you wouldn't have to let it go, hoping it would make sense, hoping you wouldn't have to let it go. But delayed obedience is still disobedience, and every moment you hold on to what you're supposed to release, you delay what's already been prepared for you. There is a blessing with your name on it. There is a calling that is uniquely yours. There is a life that you've been praying for. But it requires a version of you that is willing to let go. Let go of the past. Let go of the pain. Let go of the people who cannot go where you're going. Let go of the mindset that keeps you small. Because what God has for you is not limited. It's not average. It's not ordinary, but it does require capacity. And capacity is created through release. So the question is not, is it worth it? The question is, are you willing to trust enough to let it go? Because on the other side of your release is peace. On the other side of your surrender is clarity. On the other side of your obedience is everything you've been praying for. And you don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to be willing. Willing to trust, willing to move, willing to release. Because what's meant for you will not pass you. But it will require you to become someone who can carry it. And sometimes becoming that person starts with letting go. There is a quiet truth that many people try to avoid, yet it shows up in every season of growth. You cannot become who you are meant to be while holding on to everything you used to be. Growth is not just about gaining more, it is about releasing what no longer fits. And the hardest part is that what you need to release is often something you once prayed for, something you once needed, something that once felt right. Letting go is not a sign that something was wrong from the beginning. Sometimes it simply means that its purpose in your life has been fulfilled. But we struggle with that idea because we attach meaning to duration. We think if something was real, it should last forever. If something mattered, it should stay. But growth doesn't work like that. Growth is seasonal, and every season comes with an expiration date. The challenge is that we become emotionally attached to what is familiar. Even when it no longer brings us peace, we hold on to it because it brings us comfort. Even when it starts to feel heavy, we carry it because at least we know what it is. The unknown feels more threatening than the weight we've grown used to carrying. But what you have to understand is that familiarity is not always alignment. Just because something feels comfortable doesn't mean it is meant to continue with you. Sometimes you're not staying because it's right. You're staying because it's right. You're staying because it's predictable. Growth will always disrupt your sense of comfort. It will stretch you beyond what feels safe. It will challenge your habits, your mindset, your relationships, and even your identity. And in that process, you'll be faced with a decide. Cheyenne, hold on to what feels safe or release it to step into what is greater. There are things in your life right now that are taking up space they no longer deserve. Old pain that keeps replaying in your mind. Past mistakes that you've turned into permanent labels. Relationships that no longer nourish you but instead drain your energy. Mindsets that once protected you but are now limiting you. You cannot carry all of that into your next level. Imagine trying to fill a glass that is already full. No matter how much more you pour into it, nothing new can enter because there is no space. That is what happens when you refuse to let go. You keep asking for more, praying for more, hoping for more, but your life is already crowded with what no longer belongs. Letting go is how you make room. But making room requires honesty. It requires you to look at your life and admit what is no longer working. It requires you to stop making excuses for things that are clearly misaligned. And that kind of honesty can feel uncomfortable because it forces you to confront reality instead of living in hope that things will somehow change on their own. Some of you are holding on to pain because it has become part of your identity. You don't even realize it, but you've built a story around what hurt you. You've told yourself that your struggle defines you, that your wounds explain who you are, and while your experiences have shaped you, they were never meant to imprison you. Healing requires release. You cannot move forward while constantly looking backward. You cannot experience peace while replaying pain. At some point, you have to decide that what happened to you will not control where you are going. Letting go does not mean pretending it didn't happen. It means choosing not to carry it with you anymore. There are also people you may need to release. And this is one of the most difficult parts of growth because relationships are deeply emotional. You invest time, energy, love, and trust into people, and the idea of letting them go feels like losing a part of yourself. But not everyone is meant to go with you to your next level. Some people are assignments, not alignments. Not alignments. They were placed in your life for a specific time, to teach you something, to help you grow in a certain way. But once that purpose is fulfilled, holding on to them can actually hinder your progress. You start shrinking to maintain the relationship. You start compromising your growth to keep the connection. You start ignoring what you feel just to avoid the discomfort of letting go. But growth requires alignment, not attachment. If a relationship is no longer helping you become who you are meant to be, you have to be honest about that. And honesty may lead to distance. It may lead to separation. It may lead to separation. It may lead to endings. And endings are painful, but sometimes endings are also necessary. Because every ending creates space for a new beginning. There are also beliefs you need to let go of. The thoughts that tell you that you're not enough, that you're too late, that you're not capable, these beliefs often come from past experiences, from things that didn't work out, from moments where you felt rejected or overlooked. Over time, you internalize those experiences and turn them into limitations. But those limitations are not truth. They are just stories you've been telling yourself. And if you want to grow, you have to be willing to challenge those stories. You have to be willing to release the mindset that keeps you small and replace it with one that allows you to expand. Because growth cannot happen in a limited mindset. You cannot step into something greater while believing you are unworthy of it. Letting go also means releasing control. The need to have everything figured out. The need to know how things will work, when they will happen, and what the outcome will be. Control gives you a false sense of security. It makes you feel like you are in charge, like you can manage every outcome. But in reality, control often keeps you stuck, because you hesitate to move unless you have certainty. And growth rarely comes with certainty. It comes with trust. Trust that even when you don't see the full picture, you are still moving in the right direction. Trust that even when things feel uncertain, there is still purpose in the process. Letting go of control allows you to move forward with faith. Instead of fear, it allows you to take steps without needing all the answers. And that is where growth happens, in the space between what you know and what you are becoming. There will be moments when letting go feels like losing, when it feels like you are giving up something important, when it feels like you are walking away from something you invested so much into. But letting go is not losing. It is making a decision to choose your future over your past, a decision to choose growth over comfort, a decision to choose alignment over attachment. And those decisions are not easy. They require courage. They require trust. They require you to believe that what is ahead of you is worth more than what you are leaving behind. Because the truth is, growth will always cost you something. It will cost you your comfort. It will cost you your privichki. It will cost you your privichki. It will cost you your mindset. It will cost you relationships that no longer align. But what you gain in return is far greater. You gain clarity. You gain peace. You gain purpose. You gain the freedom to become who you were always meant to be. And that is the beauty of letting go. It is not about losing. It is about creating space for something better. It is about trusting that what is meant for you will not require you to hold on to what is hurting you. It is about understanding that every release is making room for a new level of growth. And when you finally embrace that truth, letting go no longer feels like an ending. It feels like a beginning. There is something deeply human about wanting control. It gives you a sense of stability, a feeling that your life is in your hands, that nothing will catch you off guard. You plan, you calculate, you analyze every possible outcome because you believe that if you can just understand everything, you can protect yourself from disappointment. But the truth is, control is often an illusion. You can plan every detail and still face the unexpected. You can prepare for every scenario and still encounter something you didn't see coming. And when that happens, it shakes you. Not just because things didn't go your way, but because it challenges the belief that you were ever truly in control to begin with. And that's where the struggle begins. Because deep down, surrender feels like weakness. It feels like giving up responsibility, like stepping back when everything in you wants to hold on tighter. You think that if you loosen your grip, everything will fall apart. But what if the very thing you're holding so tightly is what's keeping you stuck? You've been trying to control outcomes, control people, control timing, control every detail of your life. And while it may feel like strength, it's actually exhausting. Because control demands constant effort. It requires you to carry the weight of everything, to always be alert, always be calculating, always be prepared. And that kind of pressure will wear you down. Faith, on the other hand, operates differently. Faith doesn't require you to have all the answers. It doesn't ask you to see the entire path before you take the first step. It simply asks you to trust. And trust is uncomfortable. Because trust means moving forward without guarantees. It means stepping into uncertainty. It means believing that even when things don't make sense, there is still purpose in what you are experiencing. You want clarity before you move. You want assurance before you act. You want proof before you believe. But growth doesn't work that way. Growth often requires you to take the step first and understand it later. And that is where surrender becomes necessary. Surrender is not about doing nothing. It is not about being passive or careless. It is about releasing the need to control everything and choosing to trust the process instead. It is about saying, I will do my part, but I will not try to control what is beyond me. Because there are things in your life that are simply not yours to control. You cannot control how others feel about you. You cannot control every outcome. You cannot control the timing of everything you desire, and the more you try to control those things, the more frustrated you become, because you are investing energy into areas where you have no authority. Surrender redirects that energy. It allows you to focus on what you can control: your actions, your mindset, your decisions, while trusting that everything else will align as it should. But letting go of control is not easy, especially if you've built your life around it. Some of you learned to control everything because of past experiences. Maybe things felt unstable, unpredictable, or unsafe at some point in your life, and in response, you developed a need to manage everything around you. You told yourself, if I stay in control, I won't get hurt again. And while that may have protected you in the past, it is now limiting your future. Because control keeps you in a space where everything is familiar, predictable, and safe, but growth rare. Ellie happens there. Growth happens when you step outside of what you can control. It happens when you take risks, when you trust beyond your understanding, when you allow yourself to move forward without knowing exactly how everything will unfold. And that requires faith. Faith is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward despite fear. It is the ability to say, I don't know how this will work, but I believe it will. And that kind of belief shifts everything. Because when you operate from control, you are constantly trying to figure everything out before you move. You hesitate, you overthink, you delay action because you are waiting for certainty. But when you operate from faith, you move with confidence, even in uncertainty. You take steps without needing full clarity. You trust that each step will reveal the next. And that is how progress is made. Some of you are stuck not because you lack ability, but because you are waiting for everything to make sense before you move. You keep telling yourself, once I understand it, I'll do it. Once I feel ready, I'll take the step. Once I have all the answers, I'll move forward. But readiness is often created through action, not before it. You don't become confident by waiting. You become confident by doing. And faith requires that kind of action. It requires you to move before you feel fully prepared. It requires you to trust before you see results. It requires you to release the need for perfect conditions and start where you are. Because if you wait for everything to be perfect, you will remain in the same place. Control will keep you analyzing, but faith will move you forward. There are moments in life where things will not go according to your plan. Doors you expected to open will remain closed. Paths you thought were certain will suddenly shift. And in those moments, control will may. Can you resist? It will make you question, overanalyze, and try to force things to go your way. But faith will make you pause and trust. It will remind you that just because something didn't happen the way you expected doesn't mean it's not working in your favor. Sometimes what feels like a setback is actually protection. Sometimes what feels like a delay is actually preparation. And sometimes what feels like a closed door is actually redirection. But you won't see that if you are only focused on controlling the outcome. Surrender allows you to see beyond the moment. It allows you to trust that there is a bigger picture, even when you cannot fully understand it. And that trust brings peace. Because when you let go of control, you also let go of the pressure to figure everything out. You no longer feel the need to have all the answers. You no longer feel the need to force outcomes. You simply focus on doing your part and trusting that everything else will fall into place. That doesn't mean everything will be easy. There will still be challenges. There will still be moments of doubt. There will still be times when you question whether you are on the right path. But the difference is, you won't be carrying it all on your own. You won't be trying to control every detail. You will be moving with a sense of trust that allows you to keep going even when things are unclear. And that kind of trust is powerful because it frees you. It frees you from overthinking. It frees you from fear. It frees you from the constant need to control everything. And in that freedom, you begin to experience growth in a way you never have before. You start taking steps you were once afraid to take. You start embracing opportunities you would have once avoided. You start moving forward with a confidence that is not based on certainty, but on trust. And that is what faith be. Ease. It shifts your focus from what you can control to what you can believe. It reminds you that you don't need to have everything figured out to move forward. You just need to trust enough to take the next step. Because at the end of the day, control will keep you safe, but it will also keep you stuck. Faith will challenge you, stretch you, and sometimes even scare you, but it will also move you into places you could never reach on your own. And the life you are meant to live is not found in control. It is found in surrender. There is a version of your life that you keep dreaming about. A version where things feel aligned, where you are walking in purpose, where opportunities flow, where peace is not something you chase but something you live in. You've imagined it. You've prayed about it. You felt glimpses of it in quiet moments when your heart dares to believe that more is possible. But what many people don't realize is that the life you are asking for is not just about receiving something new. It is about becoming someone new. It is about becoming someone new. Because the same mindset, the same habits, the same patterns that exist in your current reality cannot sustain the next level you are asking for. What you're praying for requires capacity. And capacity is not given. It is developed. You cannot pour greatness into a version of yourself that is not ready to carry it. You cannot step into a higher level while thinking in the same limited way. You cannot expect different results while holding on to the same behaviors. Transformation is not optional, it is required. And that's where the real work begins, because becoming a new version of yourself is uncomfortable. It requires you to confront parts of yourself that you have ignored. It requires you to challenge beliefs that you've held onto for years. It requires you to step out of patterns that feel familiar but are no longer serving why. Ooh. You may say you want more, but your current habits may be keeping you in the same place. You may say you're ready for change, but your mindset may still be rooted in fear, doubt, and limitation. And until those things shift, your reality will remain the same. Growth is not about wishing. It is about becoming. It's about asking yourself, who do I need to be to handle what I'm asking for? Because the life you desire requires a stronger mindset. It requires discipline. It requires emotional maturity. It requires a level of self-awareness that allows you to make better decisions. And those things don't just appear overnight. They are built through intentional change. Some of you are asking for success, but you are still operating in inconsistency. You start things but don't finish them. You get motivated but lose focus. You want results, but you are not yet committed to the process. And the truth is, success cannot be sustained without consistency. It's not about what you do once, it's about what you do repeatedly. Becoming a new version of yourself means developing habits that align with where you're going, not where you've been. It means showing up even when you don't feel like it. It means staying committed even when it gets difficult. It means choosing discipline over comfort, because comfort will always keep you in the same place. Growth requires discomfort. It requires you to do things that feel unfamiliar. It requires you to do things that feel unfamiliar. It requires you to step into spaces where you don't feel fully confident yet. It requires you to take responsibility for your actions, your choices, and your outcomes. And that level of responsibility can feel heavy at first, because it removes excuses. It forces you to stop blaming circumstances, people, or past experiences for where you are. It shifts your focus to what you can do differently. And that shift is powerful, because when you take responsibility, you also take control of your growth. You stop waiting for things to change, and you start becoming the change. There are also beliefs that you need to release in order to grow. The belief that you are not good enough, the belief that you are too late, the belief that you are not capable of achieving what you desire. These beliefs often operate quietly in the background, shaping your decisions without you even realizing it. They show up in hesitation. They show up in self-doubt. They show up in the way you talk yourself out of opportunities. And if you don't challenge them, they will continue to limit you. Becoming a new version of yourself means rewriting those beliefs. It means choosing to see yourself differently. It means recognizing that your past does not define your future. Just because something didn't work before doesn't mean it won't work now. Just because you failed once doesn't mean you will fail again. Growth requires you to give yourself permission to evolve, to let go of who you used to be so you can step into who you are becoming. And that process takes courage, because change is not always comfortable. There will be moments when you doubt yourself, moments when you feel like you're not making progress, moments when you question whether the effort is worth it. But those moments are part of the process. They are not signs to stop. They are signs that you are stretching beyond your old limits. Every time you choose growth over comfort, you are building a new version of yourself. Every time you challenge your old mindset, you are expanding your capacity. Every time you take action, despite fear, you are moving closer to the life you desire. And over time, those small decisions create big change. You become more confident. You become more disciplined. You become more aligned with your purpose. And that alignment changes everything. Because when you are aligned, you no longer chase things that are not meant for you. You no longer settle for less than you deserve. You no longer operate from a place of lack or insecurity. You move with clarity. You make decisions with confidence. You attract opportunities that match your growth. But none of that happens without transformation. None of that happens if you remain the same. The life you are asking for requires a higher level of thinking. It requires you to see possibilities where you once saw limitations. It requires you to believe in yourself even when there is no external validation. It requires you to trust that your growth is leading you somewhere meaningful. And that kind of thinking does not come naturally. It is developed through practice, through persistence, through a willingness to change. You have to be intentional about your growth. You have to choose it daily, because becoming a new version of yourself is not a one-time decision. It is a continuous process. It is something you commit to every day, in the way you think, in the way you act, in the way you respond to challenges. And over time, that commitment transforms you. You begin to see yourself differently. You begin to carry yourself differently. You begin to approach life with a level of confidence and clarity that you didn't have before. And that transformation allows you to step into opportunities that you once felt unqualified for, because now you are ready. Ready not because everything is perfect, but because you have grown into someone who can handle what comes next. And that is the goal. Not perfection, but progression. Not having all the answers, but becoming someone who is willing to learn, adapt, and grow. Because the life you desire is not out of reach. It is waiting for you to become the person who can carry it. And that journey begins the moment you decide that you are no longer going to stay the same, that you are willing to grow, to change, to evolve, that you are willing to let go of what limits you so you can step into what empowers you, because everything you are asking for is connected to who you are becoming. And once you commit to that transformation, everything else begins to align. At the end of it, this journey was never just about what you could gain. It was about what you were willing to release, what you were willing to trust, and who you were willing to become. Every level of your life is asking something different from you. Not more effort alone, not more struggle, but more alignment, a deeper surrender, a greater version of yourself. You've spent so much time trying to hold everything together, trying to make sense of every delay, trying to control every outcome, trying to carry what was never meant to go with you into your future. But now you understand that holding on is not always strength. Sometimes the real strength is in letting go. Letting go of what hurt you, what limited you, what distracted you, and even what once felt right but no longer fits who you are becoming. Because every time you release what is no longer aligned, you create space for something greater. Every time you surrender control, you open the door for purpose to unfold in ways you could never plan. Every time you choose growth over comfort, you step closer to the life you've been praying for. This is not about losing, it's about positioning. Positioning yourself to receive what requires a lighter, stronger, wiser version of you. Positioning yourself to walk into doors that demand faith, not fear. Positioning yourself to carry blessings that require discipline, clarity, and trust. And yes, it will stretch you. It will challenge you. There will be moments where letting go feels like breaking, where trusting feels like risk, where becoming feels unfamiliar. But those moments are shaping you, preparing you, aligning you with something bigger than what you can currently see. You are not being asked to figure everything out. You are being asked to trust enough to take the next step, to release what no longer serves you, to stop clinging to what is comfortable, and start embracing what is calling you forward. Because what is meant for you is not just about arrival, it's about transformation. It's about becoming someone who can walk in purpose without fear, who can handle success without losing themselves, who can receive blessings without being overwhelmed by them. And that version of you is already within you, waiting on your decision to let go, to trust, and to grow. So don't hold on to what's keeping you small when your future is asking you to expand. Don't cling to what's familiar when your destiny is calling you higher. Don't resist the process when everything in your life is trying to elevate you. Because what God has for you is already prepared. But it is waiting for a version of you that is ready to receive it. Let go, trust deeply, grow boldly, and step into everything that has been waiting for you.